It's a big question. Can syntropic agroforestry actually be profitable, especially in countries where the wages are more than $2 a day? Well, I've seen over 100 different syntropic projects around the world, and the short answer is yes. Plenty of people are doing it profitably, but as every good regenerative farmer or permaculture designer will tell you, it depends. And really, it depends on more than just planting trees. It takes being a good farmer. And so today, we're at Simon's project in Australia, profitable, just after a couple of years, and I'll show you exactly how he's doing. It was actually one of the best syntropic projects I've ever seen. And so if you actually want to sit down with Simon and I to ask your questions directly, get feedback on your project, we're going to be running a free live Q&A session in the Food Forest family next week. So click the link below to join us then, or catch the replay if you're going to be watching after August 22nd. Let's dive in. You're going to really enjoy this one. All right, this is very exciting. Random occurrence, just bumped into Simon.
Yeah, how are ya?
What's going on? This is super cool. So just rocked up to this agroforestry site. You said this was your first paddock you've ever done 2 years ago?
2 and a bit years now, yeah.
And you're also helping to manage the custard apples up the hill.
Yeah.
Cool. Tell us about your journey, man. What's happening here? Who are you?
Where
are we?
I'm Simon. This is my first agroforestry planting. I got into agroforestry, learnt in Brazil for a few months, came back here, wanted to make it viable commercially. So on a big enough scale and with good enough efficiency, but still respecting all the ecology of agroforestry.
And how's that journey been? Kind of like aiming also for the commercial side of it and the ecology.
Yeah, so I spent a few years working on sort of conventional, regular farms, just trying to learn the things that they were doing. And I think, farming itself, particularly setting up a farm, is really difficult. And I don't think agroforestry makes it more difficult. I think
agroforestry makes it more difficult.
No, I don't think it makes it more difficult. Yeah, I find it, because I've been trained only really in agroforestry, so it's the only way I really know how to farm. And
hell yeah.
There's some things that are more tricky and some things that are easier. So on the whole, I find the farming part of it, like if you can be a good farmer, then agroforestry is relatively easy. I think being a good farmer is the really tricky part.
What separates like a good farmer from not a good farmer then?
It's often the small sort of percentages, like can you get a good enough crop, without spending too much time and money to get it. And there's a big difference between, 80% and 100% of a crop. And knowing the market, knowing what you're growing for, what market is there, value in it, and a lot of it's the harvest and the post-harvest and all of the things that go into that with making it work. So yeah.
And so how does that translate to kind of like what we're seeing here on the land?
So what I've tried to do is to keep the complexity of successional agroforestry, with the different successional groups and the stratification, using a lot of early successional crops to increase the fertility of the land, and to give myself some shade and some material to prune and mulch with.
You can see the eucalyptus, you can see the Mexican sunflower, cassava. Is that banana or is that?
That's banana.
Nice. So like 1.5 meters out from the tree lines?
Yeah. So it's kind of happened a little bit planned and a little bit kind of learning. It's kind of shaping itself, and I'm learning as I'm going. And starting again now, obviously you would do it differently, but you have to go through that journey to learn the little details.
Starting again now, how would you be doing it differently?
A few things. I really love the banana, and it's been really, really good for me. So I'm glad I started with that, but I want to try with silk sorghum instead. Just because it's easier to plant mostly, and it gives you a little bit easier with maintenance options are a bit easier, because banana you don't want to miss a management cycle. I've got the mulcher. I start with using a mulcher and a hay rake, and the banana can get long with that, but it is heavy going on a smallish tractor with a mulcher, so you can have those problems. And I'm going to systems not using the tractor, so I've been doing it with a brush cutter. Ideally you'd have a setup where you had a small sort of ride-on, like a mow and blow ride-on, and enough space to go down that, to go down the grass rows not running over your beds.
So that's your ideal scenario, is like
That's the
a ride-on
ideal
mower
scenario.
with a chute,
Yeah.
not running over the beds themselves.
Yeah. So
Okay.
just getting the spacings, and it depends on the machinery that you're using. So yeah, getting the spacings right for that is a big thing. And there's really big difference between 25 centimeters spacing here and there. In this particular situation here, I'm just planting a cover crop. Eventually I'm going to plant taro in there. In the winter I'm going to try garlic. In the next planting I got the same distance planting for the tree rows, but I moved my bunna grass 25 centimeters closer to the tree rows to give myself a bigger gap in there, so it's not going to shade the interrow there. And also I find with brush cutting it, if it's a little bit too wide, it's really hard to brush cut it and get it in. Whereas if it's a little bit closer, it does a better job of stopping the running grasses and other weeds moving into the taro bed. And then it's also a lot easier to manage.
Yeah. So from a layout perspective, we've got tree line, bonnet grass, cover crop, bonnet grass, and then a little bit of those creeping running grasses, like you're saying.
I actually haven't really had a problem with them because the mixture of the bonnet grass, the taro, and the pigeon pea in there does a good enough job of shading it out. So I'm not really weeding at all anymore.
Cool.
Once a year.
Yeah.
In this row the bananas haven't come up as well, so you can't see, but this row here should be a taro and banana row.
This one in the middle with the pigeon pea, the taro, bananas.
Yeah.
Castor.
Castor, yeah.
And that's 4 meters between these
4.5.
two.
Yep.
I'm trying to get
Pretty
that
good.
visual meter.
Yeah.
So that's 10 meters between tree lines then.
Yeah. 9.
9.
9. 4.5 and 9 between tree lines.
Why'd you go for 9? Just because spacing of all the stuff that you've mapped out, or?
Partially, yeah. It was 1.5 between. When I originally ripped it, it was 1.5 between each rippers, and I was thinking of going bananas in each line, and 4.5 seemed to be a decent distance. And yeah, if I did it again, I'd probably give myself an extra 0.5 meter to give myself a little bit more space in here to plant an interrow crop in there, because originally,
it's getting tight with the...
Yeah, getting a bit tight. And so in here, this row of grass on the left there, I've cut that. I was always cutting them at the same time. I've cut that a couple of weeks before that row there now. That row is ready for a cut. But what I found is I've pruned this tree row hard now, so you can't see, but before I'd pruned it hard, there was a fair bit of shade coming in there, and the bunna grass was already getting affected by that, which I don't mind because I don't want the bunna grass in there forever. But yeah, an extra 0.5 meter, I reckon. Maybe in another 5 years, I'd say, actually, no, I prefer it like that. So
yeah, you can never really guess.
It's going to depend exactly on what you're growing. So the plan is, eventually I've planted some dragon fruit in 3 of these tree rows, and I'm going to plant passion fruit in the rest of them, and there's 1 row of guavas down the back. So the aim is for the tree rows to become a fruit row with the eucalypts, and the bananas will all move to the center.
Wait, I thought fruit trees can't grow underneath eucalyptus.
No, they definitely can't. Well, by then, actually no, I'm going to have dragon fruit and passion fruit hopefully fruiting within 15 months, but eventually the eucalypts will be gone. Some of them will go on sooner rather than later. I've got, there's one white cedar over there that's already 2 meters from seed, and there's a bunch of other. Nearly every eucalypt now has some sort of native emergent coming up underneath it. So within 5 years, most of them will probably be gone. Yeah.
That was a joke, by the way. So how is what are the economic drivers that are moving this project forward for you?
In the short term, it's sort of, I think, not just with agroforestry, but setting up a farm in general, but also, just setting up any business where you're doing something a bit different. It's nice not to have sort of the need. The need to make money straight away can perhaps, be good, but it definitely is easier not having it. And I'm leasing the land, but it's a share farming arrangement, so I pay 10% of revenues, and I use a lot of their infrastructure and machinery as well. So it's planting material and my own wages, which are the costs, my wages aren't you know, an immediate cash cost, so it's more of a you know, a 30-year plan to be, you know, working in this way and hopefully employing a bunch of people to farm like this in 30 years. And hopefully it's starting to get money come back in. I had my first harvest in winter.
That's what's up, dude. What was it? Garlic?
Taro.
Taro, nice.
Taro. I'm going to start the garlic this winter.
Right. Is that elephant garlic or is that garlic?
Elephant garlic, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the first harvest was a taro. I've started harvesting and selling some cassava. So the money's starting to come back in, which is nice, but I'm going to be in a growing stage for, you know, could be 5+ years that I'm in a growing stage.
Yeah. When you say growing stage, how do you mean that?
Like in the business terms, like growing the business, so hopefully planting more things, expanding, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so with it, once I start to get bananas coming on, and then the passion fruit and the dragon fruit, hopefully I'll be able to look at each paddock look at the economics of each paddock and see, hopefully within 18 months this paddock is profitable. And overall the business might not be if I'm still expanding into other areas, but
this paddock, isolate,
yeah. So I'm trying to, back what you said, what's it look like in terms of like what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep all of the complexity of the ecology, but make things into neat rows. So a big thing that I find is, you know, with commercial agriculture, like conventional agriculture, the harvest efficiencies are really important. Probably more important than even the efficiencies of managing it. So it's got to be, you know, fruit trees have to be, you know, harvestable pretty much from the ground, unless you've got like these fancy, you know, the things that have an apple orchards. But even still, it's in 2 dimensions like that. So most fruit trees should be in 2 dimensions. You want to work with wires, trellising where I can, or else the dragon fruit or the passion fruit, you know, on wires, so it's nice and efficient. And then what I've been finding is, at first it would take me a day a week to manage this paddock, and then another day a week to manage the next one, and then I added the third one on, and it still only takes me 2 days a week. So just like the little things, getting the timing right, getting the little things right. The brush cutting now takes me probably half the time as it used to, just doing a couple of things a little bit differently. So trying to get I can get a lot more revenue out of the paddock by, you know, I'm still planting a few things, there's still plenty to mature and come, but then also trying to get the costs down, make things as efficient as possible. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Can we be nosy and take a look at what's happening in the tree
Yeah,
lines?
sure. Yeah. I'll have a look.
This is sick, dude. I'm really inspired by this.
Let's go have a look at this one.
Yeah, wherever's good for you.
On account of, I've planted some dragon fruit in here, so it'll be interesting to have a look at. In this one, the bananas have done a really interesting thing, and this is like a lot of agroforestry people, like, you know, Syntropic agroforestry people will say, oh, you can't do it without bananas. I've almost found that it's a lot harder to do with bananas.
What's the harder part about it?
Because your banana's going to take, you know, 12 to 18 plus months to give you a crop. You don't get any organic matter from them until, you know, it might be in this part of the world, probably it's like 18 months till you get any organic matter from them. They take up a fair bit of space, and they don't like to be too crowded, particularly when they're young, so you got to give them the space. It means that if I didn't have the banana there, I could have a Mexican sunflower there, or another pigeon pea or whatever that is earlier succession than the banana, and that I can prune, you know, 3 to 6 times a year and get a lot of mulch production from. So once the bananas are doing well, you know, as like a secondary succession, they're super productive. But if I was saying, okay, I'm going to plant custard apples in here, I wouldn't plant bananas, because it's 3 years till I start to get a crop from the custard apples. They got to have filled out that space by 3 years. If the banana's there, it's not giving me anything. So I want to have things that are going to be giving me, you know, mulch production in the first 9 months. Like it's really good to get things like mulch production in the first sort of 6 months to 18 months is particularly useful, and the bananas are only coming in after that. So if you want to grow bananas, then they're great, but if you want to grow something else, they can be good, but they're not necessarily the best to use, I reckon.
And it's also just a lot of like very physical and quite technical management of them to keep the clumps maintained.
It is. If you go to Tom's tomorrow, then he'll be able to show you what we're doing there for the management of them in a silver pasture system.
Excited to see.
We came up with a different way of managing them, and we're yet to see if it, like long term, but short term there I found actually doing it a different way, not caring about producing bananas or about the health of the clump really. It's actually the quickest plant that I have to manage over there.
How are you finding that management?
Here,
You don't have to spoil it if I can just go find out tomorrow, but
yeah, basically I'm just cutting them with a machete down at like knee high, and I'm not bowling them out, I'm letting them reshoot, because the cows will come through and re-graze the reshoot, so you want that at a good height for them. And we're not, because if I bowl them out, we're thinking that it's going to force them to sucker more, whereas if they reshoot, they don't seem to sucker as much. So just with like really easy mulch production, just cutting them, seems to work.
But you're still saying, like, in a system especially dedicated to fruit trees, early production, custard apple, for example, you'd be going either low density or no bananas.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't use it depends. Like, if you're going to be planting a seed of a fruit tree that's going to take a while to grow, I'd be more likely to have bananas.
But you're talking about grafted trees.
Grafted trees, yeah, or just a fast-growing tree.
Yeah.
With passion fruit and dragon fruit, like vines and stuff, I think then it does work, because they might not be filling up that space straight away. But if it's like a fast-growing fruit tree, where I planted the guavas, actually, I took the bananas out of there for planting stock somewhere else, because by the time the bananas are producing the guavas, I want to fill up that space. So, yeah. So
what are we seeing? This mulch is looking really good. Very little weed pressure.
Yeah, I'm not doing any weeding. In the tree rows, there's no weeding. It's only in a new row. In a new row now that I'm planting, I'll weed once to twice, and I'll do one to two weedings in the taro row. But if there's decent bananas and pigeon pea, then I don't think I would do any. I'm not pulling out any weeds. I'm just cutting them with a sickle. So yeah, we've got pretty decent mulch. These tree rows are now self-mulching, so we're getting mulch production from the bana grass next to us, but that's now going to start to go into the interrow for the garlic, which will become taro. And I'm happy now that we're getting enough mulch production from the tree rows.
And then a lot of this is coming from the pigeon pea.
Pigeon pea has been my favourite that I've been using. It's super productive. It's quite easy to work with. So some of it will be coming from cassava.
And you're cutting this pigeon pea right at ankle height. Yeah.
That was to get rid of it. I would have cut it down there. Well, one, because I've got one next to it. And that was just to cut it out, essentially. I would have made that cut when the eucalypt was lower. And I didn't want them to sort of block each other's sun. I wanted to give the eucalypt more of a go. But what I found is that even if I cut them really low like that, they'll keep on reshooting and giving me more mulch production for a couple more years. And eventually they'll go, particularly once there's too much shade. In this row there's not so much Mexican sunflower, but the Mexican sunflower and the pigeon pea are the two biggest mulch producers that I have.
And how do you find working with the Mexican sunflower in particular in the line itself?
Sort of 50-50 whether I want it or not, because it's so good, but then it's a little too good sometimes. So with every other tree, I'm gonna prune it to its strata, but with the Mexican sunflower, I just cut it with a machete right at the base, because it doesn't really. If I cut it up here, it reshoots at the base anyway. And the quickest way is just with a machete, and when they're long, you can kind of like lay them down and cut them in one go. And the mulch production is really good, so yeah, it's hard to not use them because of that. I think you can get away without using them, which makes me think, oh, maybe I shouldn't. But Yeah, I've planted them again this year, and I probably will plant them again another time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that management of just cutting them like right ground level, because then all the reshoots are really nice and easy to manage. It's straight.
Yeah,
You can lay
yeah.
it down and chop it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that, I find the other thing I find is if I do it with a machete, there's some, generally I don't like cutting plants and ripping them. I want to make a really clean cut, but with something like the Mexican sunflower, I'm really happy to not make a clean cut. And I've seen at times as well that the when you cut them a bit ugly, then you do get fungus coming in, and then the clump does die quicker, which you're happy with in this system, because you only really want it for like a few years. Yeah. So these eucalypts have been pollarded once, and I'll pollard them again in a few weeks. Just waiting. We had a really wet dry season, and now we've had a dry wet season. So yeah, hopefully we start to get a bit more rain again, and it'll get a bit cooler, and then I'll be happy to cut the tops off again.
That's pretty early. You've already pollarded them once in 2 years. You're going to do it again now.
Yeah. So I pollarded them the first time this spring, which was 2 years, so it'll be 2.5 years by the time I've done them twice. Yeah, these ones are slower. The ones that I planted in the next paddock, there's one that's like 5 or 6 meters already in the 15 months. So it's sort of needs a top coming off already, pretty much.
And I can see right here you've got your neon dragon fruit right there at the base of it.
Yeah, so this I'm still in a few minds as to exactly how I manage the dragon fruit. Most likely I'll put like a wooden crossbar here to grow them up and hang them over. I would love to have wires growing across, grow them up, like have a T-bar here, so have 3 wires, grow them up, hang them over. So you grow them across, then you have a lateral, and then a few sublaterals coming across and hanging down.
I've seen people in Brazil do the tire at the top of a post like that.
Yeah,
and
okay.
then just drape over the tire.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure. Well, in the short term, I'm going to put a couple of blocks of wood or something like that. And longer term, maybe I'll try to do something with the wire instead. And then in the other rows, I'll put a wire up and have passion fruit in a single wire system. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've kind of like, obviously you've been studying agroforestry for however long you have been. What are some of the things that you find yourself like, do you question things a lot? Do you think like, but maybe if I question and just try something different? Are there things that you kind of are quite curious about and just very experimental with?
Yeah, like I find I'm questioning things all the time. I always end up coming back to thinking agroforestry is the best way of doing it. So like I've seen something in the newest paddock that I planted. I planted a cover crop, plenty of fertilizers, lots of mulch. I had enough rain on planting, and then got off to a bad start, and I planted a windbreak. I just rotary hoed, did 1 rip into the grass, tiny little bit of mulch, no fertilizers, the healthiest planting I've ever done.
Wow.
So
And that's quite different to what you did here.
Yeah, so here actually first up I didn't use nearly enough fertilizers, and we had a really poor rain when I planted it, like nearly no rain. But since then that's pretty much what I've been doing. So yeah, there's lots of things that you see something happening and it doesn't quite fit the theory of what what you're working on, and so you always have to be questioning and thinking, alright, like the theory is useful, but there's things happening that surprising me all the time, so always kind of questioning and seeing how you can do things differently to get better results the next time.
And so you're seeing that that graduation in this paddock last year's and now this year's.
Yeah, like definitely my later plantings are getting better and better, like little things that I'm doing differently, and it's like sometimes it's quite small things that I'm doing differently that make a big difference. So there's some things that you do and you think, oh no, that wasn't quite right, and you can figure out how to do it a bit better, and it goes a bit better the next time. And then there's other things where like there's still so many mysteries, and you're thinking, all right, I wish I understood why that is different to that. Like I've done them the same and they're doing differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm at the stage where I'm trying to get a lot better at like recognizing patterns and trying to figure out what those patterns are actually telling me, rather than just going in with a theory and seeing a pattern and trying to make it fit to my theory, but instead trying to see what the pattern's really like and trying to understand it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your target crops here in these lines?
So in this line here, originally bananas.
You got the dragon fruit.
And then it's going to be dragon fruit.
I heard you mention white cedar.
Yeah, so there's... here's a white cedar. This is planted by seed, 2 and a bit years old. So with each of these eucalypts I have pretty much... I'll have down here there's a macaranga and a black bean. And I'll pretty much always have a later successional rainforest emergent with each of these eucalypts, which will replace them. Maybe some of them aren't true emergents, I'm not really sure. And it's potentially a future timber crop, but I'm not thinking about it like that. Because I've seen a lot of people say they're gonna, it's your superannuation accounts, your timber crop, and then no one that I know has sold, like actually made money from selling timber from this thing, and it would be nice if there are a few. So it's possibly a timber crop, but it's mostly there as part of the ecosystem. Yeah.
And in the medium term, obviously you're managing the custard apple area up the top. This not being your land especially, like you said, you're leasing this. What does that succession look like for you here then, with that kind of piece of the, which seems to be quite important context?
Yeah, it's very important. On the one hand, I think it's good to sort of be able to work and give yourself to the land without sort of having the idea that you're there forever, and it's kind of like knowing that you might only be doing it for 5 years and then you have to give it up doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, I think. So that's
Respect.
yeah, because you're gonna give it up eventually anyway, right? So
we all leave this earth with nothing,
Exactly. So it's a good learning in that. It doesn't necessarily make it easier, but probably good learnings aren't necessarily easy. But then also practically trying to figure out ways for me to stay here longer than 5 years. And if the owners stay on the property for longer than 5 years, we can extend. And other than that, I either have to try to buy it or find someone to buy it who wants to keep me here. So, part of my thinking is to make it, on the one hand, economically viable, so that I have a functioning business, so whoever comes here will want to keep that on, just purely for financial reasons. And then the other is to make it sort of beautiful and inspiring, so that whoever comes here wants to keep it on as well. So yeah, I've got a few years still to try to find, essentially I think of it as like an impact investor. Someone who would want to buy the property and maintain the business, as a functioning business, but also as something that they are passionate about and want to see continue. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, man. Respect that a lot.
Cheers.
Yeah. Hey, he's doing some incredible stuff here, and just like super grateful for the time that you just spent me throwing a camera in your face and just be like, hey, what do you do? So again, appreciate all of this, man. Is there more we can come see and like some interesting details?
Yeah. The newer paddocks that I've planted are probably interesting to look at as well. Normally I would have like a lot of tall grass, but at the moment I've cut like 80% of the grass on the farm in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it would be good to have a look at the newer paddocks and see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll go over there. We're also going to send the drone around at some point if that's cool.
Sick, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That'd
Awesome.
be cool. I haven't had a drone here yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's going to look incredible. Promise. Simon's just telling me about, he said he made all the worst mistakes in this one. What were they going to be?
I can't even remember. I'm probably tried to forget most of them. Like, not enough fertilizer. We had a really dry year, which was, bad luck. But I should have then, not planted in spring and waited for the wet season. What else? I got my ground preparation wrong. Like the cover crop that I'd sowed prior to planting was, I tried to plant it, so it, drill it into the pasture, and that didn't work, so it didn't come at all. And then I had to rotary hoe the grass before planting, and the rotary hoe broke when I got 3/4 of the way through. And I was trying really hard to kill the kikuyu in particular, and so I rotary hoed it, waited a couple of weeks, rotary hoed it again, but it had been more than a couple of weeks because I had to fix the rotary hoe. So I just had heaps of soil, like bare soil, and then, you try so hard to kill a kikuyu and you can't kill it. And so it came back anyway, so I was doing heaps of weeding and having to fill up the tank with the tractor and water things all the time, and I tried planting a lot of, early successional things by cuttings which didn't take, and I tried them again by cuttings and they still didn't take.
What kind of things?
Macaranga but it doesn't really. I planted a lot of, I really wanted the wild tobacco to grow, and I tried that with cuttings and seeds, and it just doesn't, it only wants to grow where it wants to grow. It'll grow where it wants to grow, and if you plant it somewhere, it's like, nah. And I planted some Mexican sunflower in some rows and not in other rows, and that one did the best for me, so I ended up planting it in more different rows. There would be a whole list of other things that I did wrong as well. That's just off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a good list right there. Learn from those mistakes so you don't have to make them yourself.
Yeah.
This is very cool. These are the systems that are 15 months old here at Simon's, and we're just talking about inputs for the first year, how that transitions into the second year of no inputs, and then what the mulching looks like. So no mulch was imported for this, and you're getting all the mulch you need from a single line per row of Bonnegrass.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So you've got, actually no, it's 2 lines of Bonnegrass.
One each side. Yeah.
One on each side, spaced maybe just over 1.5 meters away from the tree line. Cutting with a brush cutter, you're saying, is way more preferable than with a PTO tractor flail mower.
If they're just inside 1.5 meters now, probably more like 1 meter 25. With a brush cutter, that makes it a lot easier. With a tractor, I'd go more like 1.5, so you got more space for your wheel. And the first year, I do actually do it with a mulcher and a hay rake, because I often let the Bonnegrass get really tall and too tall to do it with a brush cutter, because it will regrow.
On purpose to allow it to get so tall in the first year so you have enough mulch?
Yeah, to get a lot of mulch. I probably don't have to though, and I'll show you something else pretty cool just now. But yeah, I'm finding 1 row on each side is plenty mulch for each bed, and I've weeded this bed twice in the first 6 months.
How long are these rows?
120 meters. I've got a roadway, an access way coming down halfway, so it's 60 meters. 120 meters if I'm on the tractor and 60 meters if I'm not. Which is useful because it is turning around takes a lot of time in the tractor, so it is nice to have really long rows, and then you can cut them across with alleyways. So ideally, if you're harvesting, if you're doing that by hand, you don't have to walk so far with your crop. So it's really nice to be able to have really long lines that are sort of segmented across. The first thing I do actually is to grow a cover crop. I use a rotary hoe. I've got a little 1 meter rotary hoe, really light rotary hoe, rip cover crop. Let that grow, cut that before planting a light rotary hoe again to terminate that. Mulch the grass. I've got a hay rake, just a ground driven hay rack that I pull behind the tractor, and that throws the mulch onto the bed and then plant into that. Yeah.
Love that process.
But I'll show you over here something cool. I've just planted a windbreak, and it's probably the healthiest planting that I did, and I didn't have much mulch, and I didn't do any fertilizing, and I didn't plant a cover crop, and so there is a little bit. It's actually be better to see further up, but it's grown really healthily, and it really surprised me how well it's doing. You can see there's quite a lot of grass growing through here, but if we go up to where it starts in the next line, you can see where I've been managing, because this grass here, so one of the biggest problems I had at first was, this kikuyu, just, the more you fertilize it and water it and mulch it, the stronger the kikuyu grows through.
We're real familiar with that in New Zealand.
Yeah, and the first impulse is to fight it, but actually you can use it as well. And just in this, like 30 to 50 centimeters of kikuyu on the side of this bed, you can get a lot of mulch, and actually use it to kind of get rid of itself. So further up here, I've been through with the brush cutter recently. So you can see I didn't plant any grasses here, but just from the brush cutter, just this little bit here, I've got a lot of mulch. And the grass here is good because for the last couple of years I've only been mulching it on the tractor like once every 6 months or so, so it has really good recoveries and it's got really strong. And it shows me that it's a good way to start. If you can let a paddock recover for a long time, let the grass get thick, maybe mulch it occasionally or slash or graze it occasionally. But if you let the kikuyu and even the cooch and whatever else is going to come up there get really thick, you don't even need, like, if you do it with a brush cutter, 30 centimeters on the side, you can do it really quickly, pushing it across and get a lot of mulch out of it. And the kikuyu can, like, within 30 days you might be cutting it again. So yeah, it's surprisingly good for a really low successional grass. And the bunna grass I love, but it's also a lot more work planting it than just letting things happen and managing it.
Yeah, you can see with how long these lines of bunna grass are, how much work that would have been, with how many plugs or canes it would have been to get that established. But now that it's here,
once it's there, and it's really useful. And so this here, I cut with a brush cutter with the blade. It's really nice work actually when you get into the flow of it, just cutting and pushing it across. And you can see it gives me a lot of mulch. And I find this is going to recover within 5 to 6 weeks. At this time of year, I'll be cutting it again. That was cut about 10 days ago, and that's the recovery already. And I always find that when I cutting and mulching again, I'm always cutting the grass onto mulch that's still there, so the mulch hasn't quite finished breaking down by the time I cover it again. And then will eventually be getting mulch from the pigeon peas, and then later on from the bananas to go on top of that too.
See what you meant about not camera shy, are we?
He loves to be in the camera. He's done one day of work in his life. Yeah, so really happy with this grass. I want to try using silk sorghum instead, mostly just because of the ease of establishment. At first, didn't matter that it takes a while to establish it because I didn't have that much else to do, but the more other pruning I'm doing, and then once I get to be doing more harvesting again as well, I'll probably feel less like taking time to plant this grass. So if I can do it really quickly by seed, and the silk sorghum, if you don't cut it in time, you get canes on it, and then to do it with a brush cutter, you have to cut it from quite high where above the canes are, and then come back and cut it low again and drop the canes down where it is. So you can do it, but it makes it a lot trickier, and it's like a lot heavier, and like more difficult work. So a different grass could make my life a little bit easier.
And that silk sorghum is the one that you're looking at?
Silk sorghum's what I want to give a try to. A friend of mine, Toby's been using it with his in his like agroforestry market garden work, and it's going pretty well at his place, so I want to give that a try.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your planting process for getting this bonnegrass established?
Rotary hoe, and then I actually just had like a little hand furrower that I used to open a furrow, lay the canes down, and then close it over just with my feet. I did, well these ones actually, that's what I did the last time. These ones I actually got the neighbour to come in with a moldboard plough. Once I rotary hoed in a moldboard plough, but he wanted too much money for it to do it again, so I was like, no, I'm doing it by hand. But if you're going to do a big area of bonnegrass, definitely like old sugarcane planters and things like that. There would be ways of doing it really efficiently, but yeah, I haven't quite found it yet. A good thing to do actually, if you do want to get bonnegrass established, is the year before plant an area that you want as a windbreak, because getting like this many canes that came from a neighbour's place, and a lot of the work was just loading up the trailer to take it over here. So if you plant a windbreak first and then plant out the field with the material you got from your windbreak, that saves a lot of time, and you got a little windbreak out of it at the same time.
Good tip. You're just loving this, aren't you? This is sick, man. Loving this.
Yeah, so some of these are only 15, well they all are only 15 months old, and they're getting close to needing a pollard already. So I think I actually gave them, the first time I didn't give them fertilizer and compost, this time I did, and a better rainfall when I planted, and that definitely helped. Worth feeding them a little bit at the start, I reckon, to get things going a bit quicker.
And what was that list of things you said were the initial inputs?
Chicken manure, guano gold, which has got phosphorus, calcium, silicon mostly in it, and calcipril, which is just a prilled calcium, prilled ag lime, but it's got twice as much calcium in it as the powdered stuff, and it's way easier to put out if you're doing it by hand. And these soils are lacking in available phosphorus, calcium, nitrogen, silicon, mostly, with a slightly low pH. So I think that's probably the things that I need, but I'm definitely still learning in regards to the best mix of things to put out.
Yeah.
And compost as well.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been really inspirational to see what you've been getting up to even just in these last number of years here at these different paddocks. Much respect for the work you're doing.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah. If you had something to pass on, because obviously you're talking about, this is an economic model, right? You're not just doing this as a hobby. You're, making an honest go of this.
Mm-hmm.
What's some piece of wisdom or some, lesson that you could pass on to somebody who wants to do something similar to this without having to make that hard lesson themselves?
I think I'd probably be better at giving that advice in a few years, but from
I love the honesty, hey.
At the moment I'd say probably you have to get training. I think training is the most important thing. So you need agroforestry training, and that's easier to get. You can do courses, you can go round to other people's places, you can go to Brazil, you can even really just Instagram and YouTube and stuff you can learn a lot from. But then I think what people don't do is get the conventional agricultural training, and also just the knowledge and the wisdom from old successful farmers, and they might be using chemicals and doing things in a way that you don't want to do, and they might not even see anything wrong with that, but they probably, if they've been doing it for up to 50 years and they're making money, particularly if they're making money from it, and even if they're just still doing it, they'll have a lot of knowledge, and you know, from different people you can learn different things about processes and how to do things and how to make things work. And yeah, I think that's the most important, is getting the right training with, you know, at a number of different farms with people that do things well, and then trying to put it all together in a way that works. Yeah.
Solid advice. Simon, thank you very much. Where can people find out more about what you're doing?
You can have a look at my Instagram, Macaco Agroforestry. It's MACACO Agroforestry. I'll post on there every few months. Yeah, no, I'll try to keep up a little bit there, because it's really nice for people to be able to see what other people are doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. Simon, great stuff.
Cheers.
I only had to... All right, we got 2% on the battery, but this is the newest system. How many months is this?
2.
2 months old, and look at this. It basically looks like a monoculture.
This I actually planted the interrow first this time.
Yeah.
So that's 5 months old, that pigeon pea there, and the tree lines are 2 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a bunch of pigeon pea every 10 or 9 or so meters. Bunch of stuff in between, grass management, little bananas popping up.
Yeah, so this is where I manage the grass with the mulcher and then the hay rake. And it does a really nice job, particularly at the start. But the hay rake's pretty big, so if I'm going to keep using the hay rake, you have to have big distances between your rows. And whereas the brush cutter allows me to have another line in there. But for big scale stuff, the hay rake is pretty good. And especially at first, I think it does a better job. With the banana grass, after a couple of years, I find the hay rake doesn't pick up as much. You can see there's a lot left there, which is good in terms of mulching the grass, but I find the longer that the banana grass is here, it sort of makes like bigger clumps, and the rake struggles to pick as much of it up, whereas a brush cutter can push it all across. This is the third paddock that I planted. Department of Primary Industries next door to me, and for some reason the closer I get to their land, the worse things seem to be growing. The owner of this land is sure it's because of what they're doing there. I'm not as sure, but it has been, you know, they do use sprays and have done for a long time over there. Whether or not that's impacting here or if it's something else, I'm not really sure. But it is interesting to see, just in different parts of the same paddock, you can do the same thing and have really massive differences in the results of how things grow. So obviously there's something going on in the soil that it's not obvious what it is, but there's something that's happening in there.
Sorry for the abrupt cutoff. That was the end of the battery in the field. Hopefully you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you for the next one. We got some exciting stuff coming soon. Take care and keep growing.